We are at the last segment of May 2018 Mathematics A IGCSE paper 1H. So here we will be solving questions 16 to questions 20. The first one here, it's saying a frustum is made by removing a small cone from a large cone. The cones are mathematically similar. So from this large cone, the small cone has been removed, and you get this shape called a frustum. The large cone has base radius r centimeter and height h. Given that the volume of the frustum divided by volume of the large cone will be 98 out of 125. So if we consider this whole cone, the volume of the smaller cone divided by the volume of the large cone will be 1 minus 98 over 125, because this portion is removed. So I'm trying to find out this portion as a fraction of the whole. So I know this part, the frustum, is 98 over 125. So obviously the smaller cone is going to be 27 over 125. That in terms of volume. Right, now what we are trying to do is, that is the scale factor for volume. So we are trying to find out the scale factor of the height. Now height is a kind of a length. So we know that scale factor of length cubed is the scale factor of volume. So if I cube root this, I will get the scale factor of length. So the scale factor of length here is cube root of 27 over 125, which will give you 3 over 5. That means the length of the smaller cone is 3/5 of the length of the larger cone. Therefore 3/5 of h is equal to 3h over 5, or you can write it as 3/5 h, and that's what they have asked you to work out, that the height of the frustum. Easy 4-mark question. Next question, vectors. Right, point B has coordinate 5, 8. So B has coordinates 5, 8, and AB is 2, 7. That means if you want to go from A to B, you go 2 units across and 7 units up. Now, then in that case, what is the vector BA? BA is going to be -2, -7, because you're moving in the opposite direction. So that means from 5, 8, coordinate 5, 8, if you move 2 units to the negative side and 7 units down, right, you will get the coordinates of A as, you're getting 5 minus 2 and 8 minus 7, which will give you the coordinates of A as 3 and 1. Now they said the point B has coordinates 5, 8. Work out the coordinates of the point C. We know from A, C, it's 10 units to the right and 11 units up. So if I want to go A to C, what I will do is I'm going to add 10 units with the X coordinate and 11 units with the Y coordinate. So I'm going to get 10 plus 3, and here 1 plus 11. Actually, I should write it as 3 plus 10 because the coordinates are like that. So 3 plus 10 and 1 plus 11. So your final answer is going to be 13 and 12. And that will be the coordinates. These will be the coordinates of C. Okay, so we know A is 3, 1. B, they've given you 5, 8, and 13, 12 are the coordinates of C. Now let's move on to the next part of the question, where this says the point E has coordinates 63 and 211. Now we know A was 3, 1. We use a vector method to prove that ABE is a straight line. B was 5, 8. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to find out the gradient of AB. which is the difference between the y coordinates, 8 minus 1 over 5 minus 3, which is 7 over 2, 3.5. Now I'm going to do the gradient BE. Gradient of BE is going to be 211 minus 8 and 63 minus 5. So I'm getting 203 in the numerator and 58 in the denominator. So I do 203 divided by 58, which eventually gives me 3.5. So you see, the A, B and BE has the same gradient. Okay, therefore they have to be parallel. Therefore is parallel to BE. But as AB and BE share the same point B, that's why ABE is a straight line. Okay? Now, the next question is on transformation of graphs. So, the first one, they've given you the curve with the equation y is equal to fx. The coordinates of the minimum point are minus 2 and minus 1. Write down the coordinates of the minimum point of the curve with the equation f of x minus 5. Now, we know the rule that if f of x minus something, if that x minus something or x plus something is within the brackets, that is going to affect whatever is within the inside the brackets will affect the x-axis in the inverse way. So if it's plus 5, I need to add 5 to the x coordinate. So I had f of x was, we had minus 2 and minus 1, the coordinates. So f of x minus 5, it's minus 5, so it's going to affect the x coordinate in the opposite way or inverse way. So instead of minus 1, I need to add 5 to minus 2. So I will get minus 2 plus 5 is 3, and the y coordinate will not change. So 3, negative 1. On the other hand, y is equal to half x. Anything outside the brackets affects the y-axis in a normal way. So half x means I'm going to multiply the y coordinate by half, and the x coordinate will remain as it is. So your coordinates will be negative 2 and negative 1 over 2. Let's continue, move on to our next question. Okay, so we come back to it again. This question, the graph of graph of y is equal to sine x. We'll start from here. Now we can see this peak where the maximum is positive 1 and the negative is minimum is negative 1. The peak has moved 3 units to the right. 1, 2, 3, because the peak is now here. So for 3 units it's 90 degrees. So B, which affects the movement along the x-axis, is going to be 90 degrees. The graph has moved to the right because it's minus B, it has moved to the right. Now the peak here is 3, the maximum point, turning point, and the minimum is minus 1. It's meant to be 1 and minus 1. So we'll see what changes happen to the y's. So see, if it was y, if it's 2 sine x, then we get minus 2 and positive 2 and negative 2 as the maximum and the minimum point. But here we are getting 3 and negative 1. So how do we get that? If I add 1 to these each of them, then I will get 3 and negative 1. So that means this C, which determines the vertical translation, has to be positive 1. Because when you add 1 to y is equal to 2 sine x, then the stretched graph will shift 1 unit to towards the y-axis, and it has been multiplied by 2 definitely, otherwise the maximum and the minimum point wouldn't change. So A has to be 2. Right, let's move on to the next. Okay, so this question says Jack plays a game with 2 fair spinners A and B. The spinner can land on 2, 3, 5, 7 or 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's say the winning scores, right? So probability, I'm getting odd and I'm getting even. The probabilities are going to be, for the first one, 3 out of 4 and 1 out of 4, and for the second one, 2 out of 5 and 3 out of 5 for odds or even. Now if you get odd on the one and even on the other one, you win the game. So let's say the winning combinations are probability of odd and even, or probability of even and odd. So my calculation will be 3 out of 4 multiplied by 3 out of 3 out of 5. The other one is going to be 1 out of 4 times 2 out of 5. I'm going to get 9 out of 20, 2 out of 20. So the total probability of winning is going to be 11 out of 20. Now he plays the game twice, so he wins. Probability of he wins both times is probability of win and win, which is 11 out of 20 times 11 out of 20, which is 121 out of 400. That will be the answer. Now don't try to multiply the 11 out of 20 by 2, because it's probability of win and win, and they're both independent events. So when it's and, you multiply. Next question. ABC, this is the last question of the test paper. ABC is an isosceles triangle such as AB is equal to AC. So let's say we got the isosceles triangle here. AB equals to AC. BC is lie on the line with the equation 3y is equal to 2x plus 12, and A has coordinates 4 and 37. Find an equation for the line of symmetry of the triangle ABC. So this is the line of symmetry. Now we need to know one thing, that when the line of symmetry of an isosceles triangle creates a perpendicular line with the base. So that means A, let's call it AD, this line of symmetry. AD is perpendicular to BC. So we know that perpendicular lines have got negative reciprocal as gradient of each other. In other words, if one gradient is 5, the other one will be negative 1 over 5. That's just an example. So let's look at this question. B and C lie in the equation. So this is 3y equals 2x plus 12. Let's divide everything by 3. So I will get y is equal to 2/3 x plus 4. So the gradient of this line is equal to 2 over 3. Now we need to find out the equation of the line of symmetry of triangle ABC. Yeah. So this line AD is perpendicular to the line BC, and it passes through 4, 3 and 7. So the gradient, let's say the gradient of AD is negative 3 over 2. As I just said, if one line is perpendicular to another, their gradients are negative reciprocals of each other. So in other words, if you multiply those two gradients, you will get negative 1. And this line has a gradient of minus 3 over 2, and it is passing through 4 and 37. This is the x, this is the y. So we are going to substitute, we are going to try and form the equation of this line. So I'm getting y is equal to mx plus c. Y is 37. M is negative 3 over 2, which is the gradient of the line, and times by x is 4 plus c. I'm doing this calculation to find out the y-intercept or c. So I'm getting 37. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. It's negative 6 plus c. So c is going to be 37 plus 6. C is going to be 43. So now the equation of the line is going to be y is equal to negative 3 over 2x plus 43. Now they said write the equation in the terms of px plus qy is equal to r. So I'm bringing the minus 3 over 2x to this side, so I've got y plus 3 over 2x is equal to 43. Where p, q and r are integers, in other words they are whole numbers, so I multiply both sides by 2. So I will get 2y plus 3x is equal to 86. Rearrange, 3x plus 2y equals 86, and that is the solution to this question. Thank you very much. We'll be continuing to upload videos like this, 5 questions at a time for different test papers. There were some technical problems, that's why some of the time you might see repetition of the questions, but hopefully we'll try to avoid those in future and try to get better quality solutions for you. Thank you very much.